It is October the 12th, 2012. This is Atlanta, Georgia News and Daily Report, and I am Mark Taylor. Yesterday in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Georgia State Capitol, there was a meeting held. This meeting was scheduled on September the 23rd for yesterday, October the 11th. Representative Chip Rogers, a state legislator who resides in Woodstock, Georgia, as does his constituency, called this meeting. He did so on September the 23rd in order to afford all other Georgia legislators ample time to arrange their schedules so they could attend this most urgent and important meeting. The topic, Agenda 21. Many conservative Georgia legislators in the Georgia House believe that Agenda 21 is a UN-driven conspiracy covertly designed to end private property ownership. And take note, I did not say theory, I simply said conspiracy. The purpose of this video is twofold. One, to attempt to alert and make knowledgeable any citizen of Georgia or any other state to the insidious nature and imminent dangers regarding United Nations Agenda 21. Secondly, to inform and make sure all residents of Georgia are aware that this meeting was to take place yesterday so that they can ensure their elected officials from their district was present. All legislators were notified on a timely manner on or shortly after September the 23rd, giving them plenty of time. It is very important that those in support of Agenda 21 and those who are not sure they grasp the concepts of Agenda 21 be present. Although they are legislators and their job is to ensure they are knowledgeable and abreast of actions such as this, after all, at the end of the day, they are citizens just as you and I. Therefore, fulfilling our responsibility as citizens need to ensure they have had the opportunity to hear the facts regarding Agenda 21. If they simply refuse facts and persist with an agenda of aiding the full implementation of Agenda 21, then we as citizens have the clear and urgent responsibility of ensuring they are voted out of office. This is why we must first ensure they have been given the opportunity and access to the facts regarding Agenda 21. Because the results of aiding and participating in an agenda designed to usurp our Constitution and undermine the citizenry, as well as directly or indirectly being involved with organizations and programs which are clearly designed to strip our most fundamental rights, will meet the resolve of determined patriots. The resolve being voted out of office. This resolve will be swift, direct, and non-wavering. It is the duty of citizens to remove from office any elected official who would knowingly involve themselves with plans and agendas which plainly and clearly undermine the very document they have taken a sworn oath to defend and would conspire to deprive its citizens of their inalienable rights which they have sworn to protect. This is a very serious issue. Hear me out, check my facts, do your own research and follow up my facts with your facts. There are plenty of excellent websites out there and resources that you can find everything that I'm telling you and more. Then you will realize and appreciate the urgency and seriousness surrounding this treasonous plan, Agenda 21. Please pay attention to the quotes that I give you from those in charge of implementing Agenda 21 and those who have aided in its design. Also give special attention to the text I give you that comes directly from the Agenda 21 document and its supporting documents. If you will do just this, I can see no possible outcome but for you to agree that Agenda 21 is dangerous in nature and disastrous in implementation. As a citizen, you will have no responsible choice other than join other citizens and the many state legislators who are in the process of passing resolutions and or bills to defeat this monstrous mechanism, Agenda 21. Agenda 21 has in past times been addressed by some of you who may be even watching this report now. Many have moved on to new topics and more current issues, and that is commendable. Indeed it is. However, let me assure you that there is no other topic more current nor any other topic that demands your undivided attention and action more than Agenda 21. Over the last few months, while performing research on many topics I have chosen to write and report on, it almost without fail leads eventually to a connection to Agenda 21. While I was aware Agenda 21 contained dangerous attributes, I was not clear as to how very disastrous and serious it was. I've realized and realigned. My priorities are different. Now I want for us to take a look at what this Agenda 21 is. I want to look at some of its components and planks and some of its buzzwords. It is very, very important. I'll be as brief as possible. Keep in mind that this is critically important, so a few minutes here is warranted. For a more in-depth view of Agenda 21 and tools to aid you in learning and educating others as to the dangers, go to our home site at atlantalivenews.org. You may even choose to seek out another source. That's fine. But please, get the information and act. All right. Moving right along. I want to explore some of the components, and in doing so, you're going to hear the titles of these components and organizations and policies, and they're also used as buzzwords. Now, let me caution you, every time that you hear one of these doesn't absolutely mean that it ties to Agenda 21. It should serve as merely an alarm for you to check and ascertain. A lot of times, citizens across the country are finding more than they would like that it does connect directly to Agenda 21. The first thing I want to look at is what exactly is Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is a plan put forth by the United Nations that seeks to implement sustainable development. Nebulous government speak terms like smart meters, smart growth, sustainable communities, greenways, social justice, all have to do with the UN's Agenda 21. On the surface, sounds great. Why would we not be in favor of smart things and sustainability? Why would we not be in favor of social justice? They sound like things we could be in favor of, but what do these things really mean? We're going to take a look at that. Secondly, how did the U.S. even get tangled up in this thing, Agenda 21, to begin with? At the UN's Earth Summit in 1992, George H.W. Bush, or Bush Sr., was one of 178 world leaders who signed the Agenda 21 protocol and agreed with its goals. Maurice Strong was the Secretary General at this conference. He stated that, and I quote, "Current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and work air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. End quote. Agenda 21 is all about environmental control. It seeks to ration natural resources. Number 3, we need to look at some of the things that will have to happen under Agenda 21. Homes and buildings will have to be built or rebuilt to meet new green building codes, or else they will face hefty fines. Outdoor recreational activities will be restricted because these practices are simply not sustainable. A lot of changes that will have to occur, and they are trying their very best. Now, I want us to take a look at this term or phrase, social justice. Social justice means the abolition of private property. Here's an example from a report published at the UN's Habitat 1 conference in 1976. And I quote right from their text. Land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Private land ownership is also a principal interest or instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth, and therefore contributes to social injustice. If unchecked, it may become a major obstacle in the planning and implementation of development schemes. The provision of decent dwellings and healthy conditions for people can only be achieved if land is used in the interest of society as a whole. Excuse me. It's not fair that individuals own land or property. What will make it fair is if it is collectively owned. Agenda 21 is all over the country, people. It is popping up everywhere. Simply do a search on Agenda 21. It is in well over 600 cities, local governments, counties throughout our nation as we speak. Now let's take a look at what gives Agenda 21 its power. In 1993, roughly a year after Bush Sr. signed the Agenda 21 protocol, now let me inject something. President Bush Sr., he signed it, however, it never went before the Senate. It's not a treaty, it wasn't ratified. Hence, it basically had no teeth, no power. But a year later, in 1993, President Bill Clinton issued an executive order that created the President's Council on Sustainable Development, PCSD. This group made Agenda 21 public policy. Then, under the Obama administration, he enacted an executive order which expanded upon what President Clinton had already done and further opened up the doorway for Agenda 21's implementation, as we're seeing it now. Now, let's take a look at what is sustainable development. According to its authors, the objective of sustainable development is to integrate economic, social, and environmental policies in order to achieve reduced consumption, social equity, and the preservation and restoration of biodiversity. The proponents and implementers of Agenda 21 insist that every societal decision be based on environmental impact, focusing on 3 components: global land use, global education, and global population control and reduction. It is out of their own documents. What is social justice? or social equity. Social justice is described as the right and opportunity of all people to benefit equally from the resources afforded us by society and the environment. In other words, redistribution of wealth. Private property is a social injustice, since not everyone can build wealth from it. National sovereignty is a social injustice. Universal health care is a social injustice, and it's all part of Agenda 21's policy. What is economic prosperity? Public-private partnerships, or PPPs. Special dealings between government and certain chosen corporations which get tax breaks, grants, and the government's power of eminent domain to implement sustainable policy. In other words, government-sanctioned monopolies. These are some of the programs we need to watch for, and they also duel as buzzwords. You need to keep an ear out. And once again, just because you hear it doesn't mean it's actually part of Agenda 21, but it should send off alarms, and you should check, because a lot of times it does. But these are some of those. Smart growth, Wildlands Project, resilient cities, regional visioning, Project Star Sustainable Communities, green jobs, green building codes, going green, alternative energy, local visioning, facilitators, regional planning, historic preservation, conservation easements, development rights, sustainable farming, comprehensive planning, growth management, consensus. And again, I caution you, some of these you will hear in other places that are not related to Agenda 21, but all of these are contained within Agenda 21's documents, and some of them are particular just to Agenda 21. So keep an ear out for them. Now, I want to take a look at who is actually behind this. Who will actually implement these programs and policies? It's an organization called ICLEI, or the abbreviation ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, formerly known, where it got its initials from, International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. Now, along with them, the American Planning Council, the Renaissance Planning Group, International City County Management Group, aided by U.S. Mayors Conference, National Governors Association, National League of Cities, the National Association of County Administrators, and many, many, many more. And all of these are considered NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations. So they're not government. And I'll tell you a thing that you will find if you search online. These groups are going into cities, and they are being very deceiving. And they're approaching the citizenry and making it seem as though they have input into solving some of their problems. But they already have the solutions, and they're just placating the citizens, and they're being confronted with that. Now, moving along, number 11, excuse me, number 12, where did this sustainable development phrase come from to start with? And this is very interesting, very telling, very shocking. The term sustainable development was first introduced to the world in the pages of a 1987 report titled Our Common Future, produced by the United Nations World Commission on Environmental and Development, and its author was none other than Gro Harlem Brundtland, who also is the vice president of the World Socialist Party. That's right, the World Socialist Party. So one of the key architects and designers of Agenda 21 is none other than the vice president of the Socialist Party. That should concern everyone. Amazing. Now I want you to take a look at a few or listen to a few of the quotes from some of the architects and planners of Agenda 21, as well as exact text in a few of their documents, and I think you'll find it interesting. This particular quote is text. It comes out of the Earth Summit Strategy to Save Our Planet, 1993. And I quote, Agenda 21 proposes an array of actions which are intended to be implemented by every person on Earth. It calls for specific changes in the activities of all people. Effective execution of Agenda 21 will require a profound reorientation of all humans, unlike anything the world has ever experienced, end quote. This next one comes from ICLEA, or ICLEI, 1996, from their planning guide. The realities of life on our planet dictate that continued economic development as we know it cannot be sustained. Sustainable development, therefore, is a program of action for local and global economic reform, a program that has yet to be fully defined. Now they're implementing a program that they haven't fully defined. I find that amazing. This next one also comes out of an ICLEI published document from 1996. No one fully understands how or even if sustainable development can be achieved. However, there is growing consensus that it must be accomplished at the local level if it is ever to be achieved on a global basis. They're not even sure it'll work, and they're subjecting our cities by deceit to this. Reinvention of government. We need a new collaborative decision process that leads to better decisions, more rapid change, and more sensible use of human, natural, and financial resources in achieving our goals. And that was a report, came from the report on from the President's Council on Sustainable Development. This is a quote from Harvey Reuven, who's the vice chairman at ICLEI, the Wildlife Project, or Wildlands Project, and I quote, individual rights will have to take a back seat to the collective. You keep hearing this word collective. That's very socialist, very and communist, just all over. What is not sustainable? We've talked about things that they said. Let's look at what is not sustainable. And some of these will surprise you. Ski runs, grazing of livestock, blowing of soil, building fences, industry, single-family homes, paved and tarred roads, logging activities, dams and reservoirs, power line construction, and economic systems that fail to set the proper value on the environment. Those are not sustainable. Now, I want to take a look at the deception and the deceit and the camouflaging and hiding they're doing in this whole plan, and they admit it. And this comes from J. Gary Lawrence, who was an advisor to President Clinton's Council on Sustainable Development. And this is what he says, and I quote, participating in a UN-advocated planning process would very likely bring out many of the conspiracy-fixated groups and individuals in our society. This segment of our society, who fear one world government and a UN invasion of the United States through which our individual freedom would be stripped away, would actively work to defeat any elected official who joined the conspiracy by undertaking LA 21. So we call our process something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. There's J. Gary Lawrence, who is on President Clinton's Council on Sustainable Development. Not only have they changed the names so they're not using Agenda 21 and calling themselves other things, that's why it's important to listen to those buzzwords, but You notice the part where he said that they would vote out of office any government elected official who joined the conspiracy. That's why they're using non-governmental organizations. That's exactly why. Now, let's take a look at some of the sustainable policies. And these are just filled with buzzwords you will need to remember. Smart growth, wildlands project, resilient cities, regional visioning projects, STAR sustainable communities, green jobs, green building codes, going green, alternative energy, local visioning facilitators, regional planning, historic preservation, conservation easements, development rights, sustainable farming, comprehensive planning, growth management, consensus. And again, that every time they're used doesn't necessarily mean they're connected to Agenda 21, but it is certainly a good indication. And you need to be watchful for these. Now, we talked about the non-governmental organizations. I kind of got that out of line. Now I want to shed some light on the seriousness of this matter. I want us to take a look at the actual cities and local and state governments and different organizations who have enacted legislation. And Alabama has passed a bill banning it. New Hampshire has passed a bill banning it. I believe Tennessee has. Wyoming, Montana, Arkansas, Iowa, Texas, let's see, Georgia attempted to. These all passed resolutions. Now, resolutions are mere statements. They're basically stating a position. The bills are what we need. They have teeth. The bills become law once they're signed. And that's what we need. And Alabama has done a tremendous job. Some say Alabama was the first official one to enact a law. Some say New Hampshire. It doesn't matter. They both did a fantastic job. And I'm going to share with you the wordage of the Alabama bill. But before I do that, I want you to also know that the Republican National Committee, the RNC, drafted a resolution passed unanimously against Agenda 21 and basically stated that nobody would run on a Republican ticket who supported Agenda 21. That's a pretty strong statement. And before you accuse me of partisanship, there are Democrats against Agenda 21 as well. There's a website, Democrats Against Agenda 21. So this is a bipartisan move to ban Agenda 21 and its socialist and communist means and ways. Now, listen to the wordage of Alabama's bill. Relating to the due process to prohibit the state of Alabama and its political subdivisions from adopting and developing environmental and developmental policies that, without due process, would infringe or restrict the private property rights of the owner of the property, be it enacted by the legislature of Alabama. Section 1. As used in this section, political subdivisions mean all state, county, incorporated city, unincorporated city, public, local entity, public-private partnership, and any other public entity of the state, a county, or city. The state of Alabama and all political subdivisions may not adopt or implement policy recommendations that deliberately or inadvertently infringe or restrict private property rights without due process, as may be required by policy recommendations originating in or traceable to Agenda 21, adopted by the United Nations in 1992 at its Conference on Environment and Development, or any other international law or ancillary plan of action that contravenes the Constitution of the United States or the Constitution of the State of Alabama. Since the United Nations has accredited and enlisted numerous non-governmental and intergovernmental organizations to assist in the implementation of its policies related to Agenda 21 around the world, the state of Alabama and all political subdivisions may not enter into any agreement, expend any sum of money, or receive funds, contracting services, or giving financial aid to or from those non-governmental or intergovernmental organizations as defined in Agenda 21. This act shall become effective on the first day of the third month following its passage and approval by the governor or its otherwise becoming law. It has been approved and signed by the governor. It is law. And other states need to do the same. And kudos to New Hampshire and Tennessee and others. And the state of Georgia needs to wake up our representatives, and we need to get past a resolution and create a bill enacted into law, something that has teeth, and stop this thing. It is in Georgia. These groups are in Georgia as we speak. Go to our website, atlantalivenews.org. There's more in-depth details. There's tools on there to help you educate other people. There's tools you can show your elected officials in your local communities because they're coming into small towns anywhere they can. They're starting at the most basic level and working up as they stated that they would. They would have to do that before it could work on a global scale, and that is their plan. That is their plan. And they have no regard for our rights, liberties, or freedoms, which has been clearly identified in the quotes that I read you. This is Mark Taylor. Thank you for listening. Please share this video. Share our website, atlantalivenews.org. And until next time, be safe.